I opened the door to Victor's room and screamed out loud from what I saw. The owner of the house where I work as a maid was hanging in a noose of rope tied up to a wooden beam. It was just yesterday that he celebrated his anniversary. 70 years of his luxurious life, full of success and money. But the birthday was the only date on the calendar when all Victor's children gathered around the table. Red-headed beauty model Olivia, who traveled all over the world for shows. Older son John, a sommelier who left his parents' home in his 16th year. And younger son Ethan, who barely made it through high school, never worked a day, and was the only one who stayed to live with his father. Since Victor's wife Emma had died, I had been organizing holiday dinners. But no matter how delicious I made the food and the interior cozy, these meetings always ended the same way, with a huge fight. And so it was yesterday. The night before the celebration, Victor had a fight with Ethan, and they yelled at each other until almost dawn. And during dinner, when the whole family came together, Olivia reproached Ethan once again that while she was building her career, he was sitting on his father's neck. And then she also made a cheeky joke that Victor already has one leg in the grave, so it's time to make a will. This anniversary didn't feel like a feast at all. Victor clenched his hand so hard with despair that he crushed his glass. Everyone fell silent. He looked at his offspring with disappointment and said that he would definitely make a will, but none of them would receive his fortune, and walked out of the hall. I followed Victor to treat the wound. I had worked as a nurse for many years in the past. The outraged Victor said all he had raised were kites, not children. And now these kites were circling over his body. Olivia sobbed, John groaned, and Ethan called the police. 5 minutes later, the cops were in the room, took Victor off the noose, and put him down on the floor. Detective Foster asked who was the last person to see Victor. It was me. He invited me in for a word and ordered the heirs to leave the room. Victor's children left his bedroom one by one. An interrogation awaited me. As soon as the door shut behind us, I immediately told the detective that Victor had been murdered. He grinned and said sarcastically that if I'd been so quick to investigate, I'd probably be in his position by now. I was so hurt by his dismissive attitude that it took me a few minutes to give him all the facts to prove that I know what I'm talking about. Firstly, the cuts from the glass crushed in his hand were too strong, so Victor wasn't able to clench his palm into a fist. And even more so, he couldn't tie the restraint himself. Secondly, based on my experience in medicine, I knew for sure that if Victor was suicidal, the furrow on his neck would be deeper and of a different shade. And finally, when I found Victor, I noticed drops of wine spilled on the floor. But there was neither bottle nor glass in the room. The wine was sent in the morning by his sommelier son, John. Victor was really pleased with the gift and his son's attention. In fact, we all knew Victor's backstory. When he was still a poor laborer and only dreaming of wealth, he promised himself that he would drink such an exclusive wine on his 70th birthday. He told Ethan and me that he would uncork the bottle the night after the dinner and asked me to take it into his room, which I did. So as I saw the drops, I took a syringe from the first aid kit and collected them before the killer noticed and wiped them off. The detective listened to me carefully and then asked if any of Victor's children was capable of murder. Oh yes, each one had their own motives. Besides, I knew one of the master's secrets, and if any of the children got to know it too, that would definitely be a motive for the crime. For the first time in 20 years, I told Victor's secret to the detective, handed him the syringe with wine, and also reported that the rat poison had gone missing from my drawer yesterday morning. Foster called me later that afternoon to tell me that Victor got poisoned, and they also found several red hairs on his clothes. Olivia, she was the only one who had inherited her mother's gorgeous red color hair and had a long-standing grudge against her father, who had handed over to the police her con artist boyfriend, a fake art dealer. And John, could it have been him? A renowned sommelier. The poison was found in the wine he gave his dad. In addition, last year he'd racked up $500,000 in debt because of a casino loss, asked his father for help, and he'd refused to give the money. But John was a really smart guy, and if he was a killer, he would have come up with something more subtle to deflect suspicion. However, he was the one who gave the damn bottle. But where did it go? And where's the glass Victor drank from? I tried to remember the name of the wine or the label, but I failed. As soon as the policeman left, I went to Victor's room to clean up after their work. I heard a rustle and lurked. In the gap between the doors, I saw Ethan walking around his late father's room, wiping away tears. Everyone experiences grief in their own way. Apparently, he's realized what happened, I assumed, and started to back away from the room. The floor creaked beneath my foot, and I stepped on something soft. I managed to grab the scrap of this odd material and tossed it into my bag, which was on the nightstand outside Victor's room. At the same time, Ethan came out and irritably asked me to come back for a cleanup in an hour. I clutched my purse and quickly left for the town. I can't remember the last time I was in such a hurry to get somewhere. And when there was only one narrow road separating me from my goal, the traffic light turned red. Those 30 seconds of waiting felt like torture. As soon as the light turned green, I ran across the road. One of the cars parked on the side of the road bumped into me, and I barely had a chance to bounce back. I tripped on the cobblestones and fell face down. Pain shot up my leg, my head spun, and my eyes went black. Someone jumped out of the car, but instead of helping me up, they picked my purse up off the sidewalk, got in, and hit the gas pedal. It all happened in a couple of seconds, but I managed to raise my head and see that the car that was moving away from me at a great speed was an old Ford with dirty license plates. I knew immediately from the large scratch on the bumper that it was Victor's car, the one he gave Olivia as a birthday present. If they were trying to kill me and steal a purse that might contain evidence of a crime, then I was getting fairly close in my investigation. Is Olivia really her father's killer? And the motive is resentment for turning her favorite con man into justice? I stood up quickly and ran to where I was supposed to get the answer to the question, who is the murderer? In the evening, we were discussing Victor's funeral in his office, which was down the hall from his bedroom. Our conversation was interrupted by the doorbell. On the threshold, there were Detective Foster, Notary Vogler, and a lady whom I recognized at once. Her appearance astonished Victor's children, for none of them had ever seen her before. Vogler began to read Victor's will, which was kept in a safe deposit box at the train station and which no one but Victor and I knew existed. Not even the child to whom the inheritance was bequeathed, and the property was to go to the mysterious stranger Alicia. Olivia immediately started shouting that it must be her father's lover, but Alicia's answer shocked everyone even more because she was Victor's daughter. In addition, one of the heirs knew of her existence. In fact, on the night of death, their father managed to send Alicia a message with the word knows, but apparently he didn't have time to write who knows before he died. As proof, Alicia showed the message on her phone. Ethan immediately called it all nonsense, because nothing would have prevented the suicide from writing the message up to the end. However, the detective shocked the heirs. In fact, their father was poisoned with wine, and then he got hanged when he was already dead. Ethan glanced sharply at John, the sommelier. He had sent his father wine this morning. John smiled. Yes, he did want to mentally kill his father after he refused to pay off his debts for his casino losses, but only mentally. Besides, he hadn't given his father wine and was quite surprised when Victor thanked him for the present in the evening. After all, he simply doesn't have the money for such a pricey bottle, which Victor dreamed of. Debts suck out every penny. John was sure that the gift was made by his brother or sister, knowing his shameful situation. However, in the evening, during the quarrels, there was no time to ask who helped him out so much. And in the morning, their father was gone. Ethan and Olivia unanimously said they didn't buy the wine. And then Foster stunned everyone with another fact. Strands of Olivia's red hair had been found on Victor's clothes. Olivia began to quickly and nervously argue that she simply wouldn't have the strength to hang her father up to the ceiling. Then the detective asked me to tell him what I'd found out in the town today. Well, I had a lot to tell. In the afternoon, I was in such a hurry to get to the biggest liquor store in town. And on the way, I was almost killed by someone driving Olivia's car. She got even more outraged. The car was stolen from her 2 weeks ago, but she kept it a secret from her father. I asked her to wait, because the truth had come out at the liquor store. I showed the clerk a piece of cork, the cork I found in the hallway. I asked her to tell me who bought such a wine, because the cork, according to my legend, was left over from a bottle that was presented to me, but I don't remember by whom exactly. It even shows a piece of the winery's emblem, so that would help to find out the person who pleased me so much. The girl immediately told me the kind. Mouton Rothschild, 1945. $100,000 a bottle. There were only 2 of them in the town. One is still in the store and the other was bought by Ethan. I've been a maid for a long time. I'm good at keeping secrets. And I know that Ethan once found correspondence between his father and Alicia. In those letters, Alicia didn't call him Dad. She wrote, Victor. She confessed that she misses him and loves him. Ethan thought it was his affair and accused his father of cheating on his late mother. He told Ethan the truth about his daughter from his first marriage. But he asked very much not to tell the other children because neither they nor their late mother knew about Victor's first failed marriage and Alicia. He wanted to seem perfect to his family. The night before his birthday, Victor said he won't give Ethan another penny and he'll go to the notary in a day. That's when Ethan decided to kill him. And to prevent his father from making a will, he decided to kill him immediately because it was the only way to get his share of the money. Early the morning of Victor's birthday, Ethan bought a bottle of wine and injected it with the rat poison he'd stolen from my hardware drawer the day before, and left it under the door to the house as if it were from a courier. Ethan knew his father was sure to have a nightcap because it was his boyhood dream. No one had ever thought that a dream could be so toxic. It was Ethan who pretended the bottle was a gift from John to deflect suspicion away from himself. As for the car, Ethan had stolen Olivia's car before that, to spite his sister, who disapproved of his lifestyle and with whom he couldn't find common ground since childhood. And after the crime, the car became a good way to screw over his successful, hated sister. So when Ethan saw me spying on him in the hallway and then putting something in my bag, he decided to eliminate me so that I wouldn't say too much and cast suspicion on Olivia. However, he failed to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Basically, he miscalculated a lot of things. He knew nothing of the shade or depth of the marks on the neck of the hanged men. He personally bought the wine at the store, dropped the cork which he carried to burn in the fireplace, nor did he know that his father had long ago made a will according to which he had entrusted the money to Alicia. After all, the other 3 children had behaved recklessly with his fortune and only got into trouble over money. Before I had a chance to finish, Ethan got arrested. I'm a maid now at Alicia's. By the way, I received a reward from the police for my active cooperation and help in solving the crime. Alicia didn't spare any of her siblings any of their father's money. Except Ethan, but he won't be needing money in prison anytime soon. But the most amazing thing to me is that Victor's children are now coming together monthly at the house, just as he once dreamed they would. Alicia, who had been the secret of the family, became its center, bringing everyone together around the truly important things, not money.